Hi, Mike. Greatly appreciated your time. I apologize, Pastor Mike, for your time this morning. You are the pastor leader of Union Coffee in Oak Lawn. So I am working in a class of business entrepreneurship. And we had to come up at the beginning of the semester with a thing, a project, a business type that offers a service or a product that has a need within our neighborhood or greater area or overall in the country, maybe even. And I chose the topic of recycling as I am originally from a country that is considered like the world champion with recycling. I feel very passionate about it, that we do not do enough in the DFW area with the recycling services that are offered. The city has offerings and mandates that apartment complexes that do not use their own services, that they have to offer of some kind of a service to their residents. There's a lot of things that still not being recycled that end up just in the trash at the end of the day, which is not good because it just lands in the landfill. And so I came up with the idea having a recycling service stations throughout the city that don't necessarily look as uninviting as the ones that we currently have that are in neighborhoods far outside of the city, that it's like an inconvenience. You have to go if you want to go there and do any business with them. And on top of that, it's really not inviting how it looks. So in the process of interviewing with several different people and as well people working in the industry, we had to develop this whole concept and then now figure out what is the greatest next thing when we start this. And that's kind of where you came in, the idea where we wouldn't have a permanent location where it is always there, a recycling station, but more something that is moving around and is using different locations that are affiliated with that spirit of, hey, we want to do something for the environment as well. And so I thought, what greater place to do that than with a church that in general does want to, as we're called to be stewards of the earth that we live on, that could be a place that we could partner with to have a recycling station. And in that whole process, I came up with this idea with somewhat not like a full semi truck, but like a bigger truck that has slots on the outside where people could come and then throw things in and kind of pre-sort it. And then we would drive it outside the city to the collection station when it's then processed and then sold to companies that would repurpose it, the recycled goods. So that's kind of the overall concept. What do you feel about that newest, greatest thing concept of, hey, partnering with a local church that has to make it a more clean and convenient environment for people to participate in recycling?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple smart things about it and opportunities in that a lot of churches, not all churches, but there are certainly churches in, say, like the Dallas Metroplex that have significant parking lot space, which makes it more available for something like that. I mean, certainly a church like Kessler Park Methodist Church, Lake Highlands, Lakewood, there are lots of churches in city centers that have more parking than, say, the average building would. And so given that they have abundant parking and, limited hours where all of those parking spaces are used, it seems like you have the advantage of accessible space for something like that. So I think that sounds like a good use of a resource of space that's not otherwise used. I think one of the challenges is if it's moving around on a regular basis, it just creates a hurdle of schedule and of people who want to recycle knowing when they can take it there or not take it there. And convenience is one of those major factors in business. And so
Yeah.
if it's not consistently there, that would be probably one of the biggest. It's not something that can't be solved for, but that would be one of the challenges that you'd have to solve for, is how to build those clear expectations.
Yeah, the challenge with the permanent one is that you have more restrictions from the city as well, what is possible in what zoning area.
Sure, that makes sense.
And that makes it more challenging to have something permanent. I do completely understand that. And that was one of the things. The convenience factor is a huge part of recycling, because it's not, from what I observe, it's not a natural thing for the generic American to do recycling. It's easier to just toss it because it's easier.
Especially in Texas, yeah. I mean, there's some parts where I think there's a stronger culture of recycling, where it's much more assumed. Thinking a lot of the West Coast, parts of New England, where I go, and like I'm confused by the number of bins and trying to figure out, okay, what's compostable, what's not, and like navigating through that.
Yeah.
I think that there are places where that culture has been developed, but Texas is not one of those places.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do as well with the government involvement and making regulations, not necessarily just encouraging it, but enforcing it. And that is just in the state of Texas, where we do not want to tell you anything what to do, because that spirit is just not, so you have to build in the convenience factor that you mentioned. And that's why I thought recycling is as well not something that you have like every day. You have enough to go to a recycling station, and that would have to be what is a healthy cycle to show up to offer that service. So that's kind of the thing that needs to develop. I just thought I wanted to reach out with you as a place of possibility to offer that, what you would think about participating in something like that. If you think, hey, that would be something that would be supportive, versus I don't feel that it would be go over really well.
I mean, I think most churches would, you're not asking much of them other than using part of their parking lot space at a time where they're not normally using it. And as you said, it aligns with values of stewardship of earth resources that most churches get on board with. I don't think many churches would say no. I don't know if there's an ask beyond, can we use your parking lot for this thing? Especially if there's, whoever it is that drives the truck away does a little cleanup around it in case there's anything that's fallen onto the ground.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the churches would be happy to host and provide the space.
Yeah.
Which then, means you don't have to worry about overhead for anything, because you're just, or worry about overhead as far as like, a space goes or cost with that. They won't charge you to use it.
So that was pretty much, I wanted to bounce off this idea, this concept with you, and get maybe some insights of, hey, you may want to think about this, or, that really works out or that doesn't work out. So that was the main reason that I wanted to bounce that off with you. So I greatly appreciate your time for this project, and I'm going to stop the recording here.